to meet with you folks. And this is our Tier 2 retirement system basic presentation. I think some of you have seen this before. Most of this group is very new, right? Within a month, within a couple of months, first week. All right. So you can come sit here and face the camera if you want, and you can be our poster child. So a quick clarification. With this employer-paid benefit, the legislature governs these benefits that we're going to talk about. And this whole Tier 1 versus Tier 2 topic, you know, the Tier 2 system was created in July of 2011. So any public employees in Utah with benefits who are new since July of 2011 are a part of this Tier 2 system. Anyone in prior to that is grandfathered into a different set of benefits. And the basic difference is this. Under Tier 1, everyone was put into a pension benefit. There wasn't a decision. It was just this plan, and it's a good benefit. It's particularly good for those who make a career of public employment. Under Tier 2, you have two options, and that's what we're going to talk about for most of today. The advantage you have under Tier 2 is you can pick between a pension-based benefit or having it all in a retirement savings plan. So that's most of what we'll talk about today. And the reason I asked everybody before starting, you know, how long have you been here, is this decision is made during the first year of employment, first year of public employment. And let me clarify right off the bat, Utah Retirement Systems has benefits for about 470 different public employers here in Utah. So everything I talk about today is portable within that group of employers. If you spend half of your career here and then you decide to go teach school down the street, you're a part of the same benefit. You're building the same retirement. We would just add it all together. The pension is portable amongst all of our public entities. So any questions for the group right off the bat? I do encourage questions that are, well, not as personal in nature, right? Questions that the group might have. So don't hesitate to raise your hand and pose a question. We're going to break down this presentation into really two categories. What is this employer-paid benefit? And then what can I do as an individual to supplement my own retirement, right? We have the employer funding a really nice benefit. We're public employees. That means our salary isn't always, you know, awesome, but we have a great benefits package. And we should be saving along the way. So we'll try to hit both of those topics in this amount of time. But let's start down this discussion about the Tier 2 hybrid versus the Tier 2 defined contribution plan. Especially on the paperwork. You're seeing the hybrid and this, I'll probably call it the DC plan or the all 401k plan. That's what that defined contribution plan is. If you have the single sheet or the single sheet handout, most of that front page talks about the hybrid plan. And this is all available online as well. At the very bottom, there's a simple description of the defined contribution plan. That plan is, there's not as much to say about it. It's a little easier to maybe understand. Let's talk about both of them. The big picture for this group under Tier 2 is this is a 10% retirement package paid by the employer. For any public safety, do we have any public safety or firefighters in the room? So public safety and firefighter members of that retirement system, the difference is it's a 12% package. The benefit's a little bit richer due to the hazardous nature of their positions. Otherwise, it's almost all the same. So let's start out talking about the hybrid plan. This is named a hybrid because it is part pension, part 401k. You really have two benefits if you choose the hybrid plan. It's mostly a pension benefit. And when we talk about a pension, what goes through your minds? What are some things that come to your mind when you think pension? Oh, come on. Okay, guaranteed wage, right? So it's a check you can count on. How often? Every month, and for how long? For as long as you live, right? Pensions are typically, see, where are my Tootsie Rolls? I saw some trail mix here. Can I throw trail mix in the? No, I won't. Okay. Well, you're right. A pension is a monthly check for as long as you live, starting at retirement. And we calculate the pension amount using a formula, right? We'll go over that in a moment. So a pension compared to a 401k, right off the bat, well then how is a 401k valued and paid out? Okay, stocks, right? We're looking into the stock market here because a 401k value is based on the stock market value of your investments, right? So is this a fixed monthly check in retirement? It's not. You've got a lump sum of money that you start to spend at a certain age, right? And when it's gone, it's gone. It can be a monthly check until it's spent, or you could take out random amounts here and there. You have a lot of flexibility with the 401k, but it's a dollar value. It's a dollar-based benefit later on compared to a formula. So we're starting to compare these two plans, right? Let's go back to the hybrid. The formula you see on the screen shows a 1.5% multiplier for all the years that you put in. So you're building a pension benefit by working longer, right? You're putting in time, and you're trying to increase your salary. So here are the factors: total years of service, a 1.5% multiplier, and then an average of your highest 5 years of salary. Those are the big factors right there. You know, some of you are fresh into the workforce, and getting a 35-year career or more is likely. The example we use here is a 35-year career. 35 years at 1.5% would replace a little over half of your income, right? You see a 52.5% benefit if you work 35 years, right? So 52.5% of what? Of the average of your highest 5 years. It's usually going to be your last 5 years of your career, not always. We're going to take the highest 5 wherever they fall. So in this example, you see that comes out to be a $21,000 annual benefit. We used a $40,000 final average salary just as an example. So $1,750 a month for as long as you live, right? Pretty basic math. But again, you see that some of the big factors might be length of your career, right? What if you work 10 years and collect a pension after 10 years? What would that income replacement ratio be? 15%, right? 10 years times 1.5, unless I'm losing my mind, that would be 15%. So not as big as of a benefit, right? Obviously, the longer your career, the bigger the check. But, you know, after 5, 10 years, at least you've got date night money throughout retirement, right? You got a little something. So any questions on how we calculate that benefit? Okay, that's pretty straightforward. Let's talk about when you qualify for the benefit. Whether it's Tier 1, Tier 2, a normal public employee, or a firefighter, we all need a minimum of 4 years, right? You're making this decision during your first year. You need at least 4 years to lay claim to these benefits. If you only put in 3 years and then you never work again, or you go to work in the private sector, you don't get to take any of this with you. Minimum of 4, and that's available at 65, right? The more years you have in, the younger you might be able to retire. I want to highlight here age 65 or any age with 35 years in. Some of you will have 35 years in, maybe even still in your 50s. You can retire at any age with 35 years in and get the full 1.5% per year, okay? But you are seeing two other categories. I separated them out on the slides because I like to show it this way. For a reduced benefit, you could retire as early as age 62 if you have at least 10 years of service credit, right? Or as early as 60 with at least 20 years. But you won't get full credit for the 1.5%. In these publications, you'll see that you would basically lose around 8% of the benefit earned for every year below age 65. Did I say that clearly? So if you retire at 63 and you don't quite have 35 years in, you might get 84% of the benefit that you've earned instead of 100%, which you would get at 65 or 35. Did that make sense? So you'll have a reduction, excuse me, you'll have a reduction if you don't start at 65 or later, or you don't have the 35 years. Right. Which brings up usually a question, well, okay, Matt, if I'm 62 and I've got 25, 30 years in, but I don't like the idea of that reduction, can I retire at 62 but not collect the pension for a couple of years? Can I delay starting the pension? Sure. You could say, I'm done at 62. I'm not coming to another day of work. I'll just have to hack it for a couple of years without my pension. I'm going to start it at 65, right? Then you don't have a reduced benefit. May or may not be worth waiting for. So are we pretty clear on when you can start collecting the benefit? Okay, I probably already said this, but if you put in 4 or 5 years and then you leave public employment, don't forget that you have a pension waiting for you, right? If you have at least the 4 years in and you leave, call us near your 65th birthday and you can start the benefit then, right? It's not going to be huge, but it's waiting for you if you're vested. Okay. All right, let's keep rolling then. These numbers are a little outdated, but remember, this is a 10% package. Most of that 10% that the employer is funding goes to pay for the pension benefit we've just described, right? We're a little over 8% needed to fund that long-term pension benefit, which means the remaining amount of the 10 goes into a 401k in your name, right? So 1.78% would go into your 401k, again, paid by Diane. We'll just point out Diane. Thanks, Diane, for funding this. She facilitates this benefit with Jenica because they're our points of contact. Or is it a payroll department that does it, Diane? We'll give you credit.
Perfect.
We'll give you credit. So this is why we've titled this benefit a hybrid, the Tier 2 hybrid. It's pension and 401k. The amount going into the 401k completely depends on the pension rate, as you see here. What I want you to understand is the 8.22% can go up, it can go down, it can fluctuate from year to year. Every July, it could change a little bit. We've seen it over the last couple of years decrease, meaning you're getting more money in your 401k for that new year. So that's the kind of change we like to see. We want to see that 8.22 stay or go down, because that means you're getting more money in your 401k. If the economy stinks or if Utah Retirement Systems starts to do a poor job of managing the pension fund, that could increase the pension cost. So let's say the rate goes up to 9%. Obviously, you're going to get 1% in the 401k for that year, right? Well, that's not so bad. What we really hope to avoid, and you will hope to avoid this too, is having the pension rate get up to 10 or even higher, right? If the pension ever costs 10% or more, you're not getting an employer contribution in the 401k for those years, and this is a free benefit unless the rate goes above 10. So if the rate went up to 11%, you would have to fund 1% out of your paycheck. At that point, you're helping the employer maintain your benefit, right? So that's a possibility. In the 5, 6, well, how many years now? 6 years? The system's been in place. The rate has always been well below 10. So we hope to keep it that way. But someday you might have to help pay for some of that. Any questions or comments? Again, it would take, well, another 2008 or URS doing a crummy job to see the rates go above 10%. So we start to think about funding ratios. And this year, 2017, right now, our pension systems are probably around 90% funded, which is really healthy for a state retirement system. So we're in good shape. So that's the hybrid plan. Let's shift gears and talk about your other option here. Again, those of you who've been in more than a year, you've already made this decision. If you don't want the pension, you could say, you know what, just give me 10%. I'll take the employer's contribution in a 401k, and I'll forfeit a pension. So if you have all the money going into the 401k plan, let's just keep in mind, let's just remember, well, that's a savings plan. It's not guaranteed income, but it's money in the stock market. And how is 10% in a 401k paid by the employer? Is that pretty good? Anybody come from the private sector and have that type of retirement benefit? Did you have a pension available in the private sector? Probably not. Both of these plans are pretty awesome. 10% in a 401k is a healthy amount. Again, pros and cons to both of these. This one's a little easier to understand. You need 4 years to be vested, right? Same as the pension. With this one, you don't have to worry about age 65 with 35 years or whatever. You just need a minimum of 4 years, and then we're going to review some of the IRS laws surrounding a 401k. And we'll talk about the investments here in a minute. So when can you withdraw money from a 401k compared to, you know, when can you start collecting your pension? Let's reference this one right here. If you have this and you want to go to page 3, we're going to focus on that first column, the 401k. We'll talk about these other plans in a little while. So the 401k, it shows you it's a tax-deferred plan. Let's jump down to the row that says withdrawals, right? When do you qualify to withdraw or start spending your 401k? Well, at retirement. Retirement is a qualifier to spend the money. Termination, simply quitting public employment, qualifies you to spend the 401k. Of course, you got to have at least 4 years in, right? Age 59 and a half. This is the more common one that we think about with a 401k. Starting at 59 and a half, whether you're still working or not, you can start to spend your 401k money if you need to or want to. And then there's also hardship. The IRS has certain provisions that allow you to take money out penalty-free. But let's talk about this here. So, and who can we pick on? Can we pick on you? You have good self-esteem? Very good. What's your name? Tyson. Awesome. Thanks for playing, Tyson. Let's see. How old are you, Tyson? 31. He's 31. Can anybody claim to be younger than Tyson in the room? Besides Diane? Diane's like 22, so she's got you beat. So you're how old? I'm sorry, 31? Okay, 31 years old. He's brand new in the system. Let's say he's here for the next 5 years. And then, do you work with any of these guys? What's your name? Nate. Tyson? Nate. Let's say you guys work together. But after 5 years, Nate's just been giving you a hard time, and he's really killed your self-esteem, made work miserable, right? So he quits. Tyson's gone. He goes to work for Idle Isle Chocolate, right? Did I get that right, Idle Isle? Okay, so he's been here 5 years. Let's talk about his 401k. So at that point, you're 36. Can he touch his 401k? Can he spend that money in this hypothetical? Yeah, why? Because he's terminated public employment. He's working in the private sector now. Termination of public employment qualifies you to spend the money. Does he want to spend the money at 36? Heck no, right? But what if Idle Isle doesn't pay him what he was making here and he needs to spend the money? He can spend the 401k. He's going to pay taxes and a 10% penalty. Whether you qualify to spend 401k money or not, or even if you can, watch out for the 10% penalty. If you're under 59 and a half, you're going to pay taxes and a 10% penalty. So Tyson, leave it alone, okay? We're good? Okay. Leave it alone. Watch out for the 10% penalty. There's an exception to the penalty, as it alludes to it up there. But right here it says, if you work into the calendar year that you're turning at least 55. So you could be, let's say Tyson's 54 today, turning 55 in a couple of months. If he quits today and he's vested, he could start to spend that money right now at age 54, because he's almost 55 this calendar year, and he would only spend, or he would only pay taxes, not a penalty. So a little bit of a loophole on the 401k if you're quitting or retiring and you've now reached that calendar year, you're turning 55 or older. Okay? So a few rules to think about. Generally 59 and a half, but maybe as low as 54, 55. But we're not looking at a table of 65 with 4 years, 62 with 10, 60 with 20, all of that. With the 401k part of your plan, look to the IRS laws. Okay. Now, this is where it gets interesting, comparing a monthly pension check to the payout in a 401k. Right? We've already established that the value of the 401k depends on how it's done in the stock market. So we're thinking about investment performance during your career and during retirement. We're thinking about, okay, the size of the account. The employer's putting money in this. Are you? Did you save along the way as well? You can add money to the 401k. Your way of contributing to the pension is by coming to work every day, right? Putting in time. You can supplement the employer-paid benefits by saving as well. We'll talk more about that as well. And then on the 401k, you're the one deciding how often to spend the money and how much to take out at a given time. So what's your payout period going to be? That depends on your spending habits, right? You could spend it all real quick, or you could try to ration it out for as long as you think you're going to live. So you're seeing the differences between pension and 401k, right? Again, they're both really nice. Again, no, I haven't talked about this. For those within their first year, if you're weighing these two options, it can be helpful to go to our website, click on the calculators link, and there are two calculators in particular you'd want to look at. There's a retirement benefit estimate calculator, which is pension, so that'd be your hybrid part, the pension part. And that's pretty easy. You go in there, plug in your date of birth, make sure you select the proper retirement system, Tier 2 hybrid. If you're married, put in your spouse's date of birth. You can kind of calculate, you have to make some assumptions. How much money am I going to make by the tail end of my career? How many years might I put in? And it shows you what your pension check looks like. The other calculator you could look at is the future values calculator for savings plans. And that would be, for example, the all 401k plan. If you plugged in a 10% employer contribution for X number of years, for you know, this rate of return and obviously where your salary's going, you could see what your probable account balance is worth at retirement. You plug in a life expectancy, and what that will show you is what you could draw from that 401k every month until age 87, or however you want to approach that. So if you want to look at the dollars versus the dollars, you could use those two calculators on our website. Okay. And don't forget, if you look at the hybrid plan, plug in a future values calculation for about 1.5 or 1.78% in the 401k as well. Don't forget that the pension still has the 401k piece, right? 10% in the 401k or the pension plus 1.78% in the 401k, the hybrid or the all 401k plan. Okay? Questions, comments? How are we doing? All right. Is this so fun? This is awesome. Who would rather be working right now? Tyson? No. Okay. All right. So let's before we maybe talk about a couple of scenarios, there are some death benefits tied to either of these plans as well. Okay? So if you're making a list of things to do, whether you've been here a few years or you're a week in, right? Please get online, make sure you have a login to our website. Please make sure you've designated beneficiaries, right? At least one primary and at least one backup beneficiary. We call them contingent beneficiaries. So good from day one on the job is an active member death benefit. Should you pass away, we're going to calculate 75% of your highest annual salary, minimum of $1,000 if you've been here a week, right? So that lump sum is paid out to your beneficiaries. On top of that, if you've been here at least 15 years or long enough to qualify to retire, if you're married and you pass away as an active employee under the hybrid system, your spouse starts to get a pension from that moment on. If you go with the all 401k plan, the only difference here is there's no pension, right? Whatever's in your 401k is inherited by your beneficiaries. The balance of the 401k requires the vesting. Actually, it doesn't. The law changed on that. Your 401k, I mean, if you died tomorrow and you're not vested, the whole 401k goes to your beneficiaries. That is one update in the law. You don't have to be vested anymore for family members to inherit an unvested 401k amount. So a couple of things we're pointing out here is who is the only person who can inherit a monthly pension check? It's your legal spouse. In this case, your legal spouse at the time of death, as long as you've been married at least 6 months, or in the event that you don't pass away, you make it to retirement and you've chosen the hybrid plan, at retirement you can choose spousal options in case you pass before your spouse, and then the pension doesn't go just till the day you die, but it continues till your spouse passes away. So that's definitely awesome if you're married. For those who are single at retirement, you know, anybody can be the beneficiary of your 401k. So again, we're seeing some side-by-side comparisons here, which leads to that big choice, you know, which plan is best for you. If you got the single sheet here today, on the back, and I have more if you didn't get one, on the back you see some of the side-by-side comparisons. You know, some of the pros and cons maybe to pension versus 401k. We have a couple of minutes left. Can we talk about a couple of scenarios where maybe you'd take the 401k instead of the pension or vice versa? Have you come to any conclusions yourself that you want to share with the group? Okay, I have some. Yes, you're welcome. So let's give some obvious ones. I'm going to say they're obvious. So I'm 31, and I'm probably going to be here till 65. How many years might that be? Like 34 years? Am I doing my math correctly? So a good 34-year, maybe 35-year career. Which plan are you going to choose? If you're confident you're going to be in public employment in Utah for a couple of decades. It's tough to beat the hybrid. That's enough time to get a great pension benefit. And if you run the math, you'd have to earn some pretty good returns consistently on a 10% 401k benefit to beat the pension. Okay? So hopefully that's an obvious one. The longer your outlook, the more reason you have to take the hybrid. So the flip side of that would be, all right, I might be here 4, 5, 6 years. and I'm still, you know, under 45, I'm going to say you take the 401k plan, right? The moment you terminate public employment and you're not retirement age, the pension's no longer growing, right? But your 401k can, because it's invested in the stock market. So if you're going to be here at least 4 years, but maybe not much more than that, and you're not in your 60s now, all 401k plan for sure. I travel up to Logan a lot as well, and I meet a lot of people who moved to Logan to go to school. Before they graduated, they got a job, and they might put in 4 or 5 years, but they're going to end up maybe back in Idaho, right? So their long-term plan doesn't involve Utah, or may not involve public employment. We're seeing them take the 401k plan. Again, 10% in a 401k is great. And that investment can grow while you're not a public employee, where a pension cannot, right? So the length of your career, which we don't always know, right? The length of your career is a big factor in my mind in making this decision. So what's your name? Melissa. So if Melissa is sitting there thinking, all right, I've been here a week, I like these people, I like this field, and I want to be a public servant, I'm going to stick with this, then hybrid's most likely best for you. Or if she's sitting there thinking, man, I forgot your name. No, I'll get it. No, it's your name. What's your name? Kirk. Kirk's creeping me out. Kirk's creeping me out. And he sits right next to me all day long at work. Oh. I gotta get a new job. Hack it for 4 years, okay? Take the 401k plan and then jump ship. I'm just messing with you, but no, I couldn't. Okay. So what else? What else? Does that prompt any other scenarios? Length of the career is one of the big ones. Some people love the stock market. Some people want to control their benefits. Some people, even if they're going to be here 30 plus years, they think, okay, 10% in the 401k, and I'm going to invest that. I can get better returns than average. I like the stock market. I'm going 401k. A lot of us hate the stock market. All right, go pension. We'll manage it for you, right? A lot to think about here. Yes, sir?
With the stock market one, after 4 years, we can choose it for the 401k part of it?
That's right.
What one of these we kind of want?
That's right. So maybe now's a good time to start to talk about those investments. So whether you're in the hybrid or the all 401k plan, your investments in that employer-paid part of the 401k are a default investment for the first 4 years. Once you're vested, you can take full control, be as aggressive or conservative as you want with those investments. Okay? So let's set aside the big decision for a couple of minutes, and let's jump to page 3 again and talk about savings plans in general. Let's talk about your own paycheck and whether or not you choose to save for your own retirement. Along with the 401k, you have 3 other savings plan options. 457, that's better for someone who might retire at a younger age. If you're just looking at those 2, 401k, 457, maybe you let that be the factor. Am I like most people and I'm going to work into my 60s? Stick with the 401k, right? Roth IRA. We haven't talked about the Roth with this group yet, have we? So the first 3 plans listed, if you're choosing where should I save, the first 3 plans help you lower your taxable income today. You're going to pay taxes on all of that as you spend it down the road, right? They're tax-deferred plans. The Roth IRA is taxed up front. Your contributions each paycheck into a Roth are taxed now. What's the benefit? Tax-free growth. All that interest over the next couple of decades will never be taxed. So as you spend your Roth IRA down the road, the IRS doesn't really even know about it. You don't owe them a dime in taxes because you taxed it. It was taxed up front. So I guess what I'm getting at is, when do you need a tax break? Do you need it now? If so, look to 401k 457. If you're like me and you have plenty of time before you retire, maybe you have little kids, you're a public employee, so you don't make a lot of money anyway, your tax bracket's only going to go up, jump into the Roth as early as you can. You had a question?
With the Roth, is it also true that you can take out what you put in without penalty, just not what the interest is in?
That's right. So let's hone in on that penalty tax. So in a Roth IRA, let's say in the last couple of years you've put $5,000 into your Roth, and the market's been good, it's worth $6,500. You could take out up to $5,000, because that's what you've put in and that's what's already been taxed. But the moment you dip into the $1,500 of interest, that's when you're dinged if you're under age 59 and a half. And it doesn't say this, but there's a 5-year rule for the tax-free growth. Let me say it this way. If you're 57 and opening a Roth for the first time, you need to wait 5 years to get tax-free interest. At 57, you don't get tax-free growth 2.5 years later. You got to wait a full 5 years. So yes, you can pull your contributions or your principal out anytime in an emergency. Leave the interest alone till later. Okay. Diane.
Okay, so say you chose the defined contribution plan. Can you change your mind and go hybrid after so many years?
Okay, so let's jump back to the employer-paid benefit. And not Tyson, Nate, sorry Nate. So, so Nate's been here a couple of years, right? Let's say Nate picked the 401k plan. Can he now change to hybrid?
Can you only change in the first year?
It's only during the first year. Yep, yep. And Diane knew that. She's just illustrating a point. So Tyson could log in today and choose the 401k plan. Tomorrow he could log in and go with the hybrid. He could go back and forth until he's been here a year, and then it's a final decision. Yeah. Okay. Now, the hybrid or the defined contribution plan involve the 401k. You can't change that. But your own money could be in any of these 4 plans. I try not to make blanket statements, but we're public employees. Most of us are never going to make millions of dollars. Sorry.
That's why I saw.
What I'm getting at is most public employees could really benefit from adding a Roth IRA to your pension, 401k, Social Security, all of which is going to be taxed later on. Get at least one account that is not going to be taxed later just to diversify your tax benefits during retirement. But yeah, the sooner you start, the better. Right? More and more of our employees are picking both a Roth and one of the 401k or 457 plans. You can split your contributions. Thank you, sir. So my encouragement is to pick at least one of these. Look at your budget. If it's $10 a paycheck that you can afford, great, start there. That's better than 0, right? Let's let the stock market over the long run generate some really good returns on your $10 a month, right? The investment options, I'll just take a moment on this and we'll start to wrap up here. Any of you love the stock market? Love to follow it, pick investments, buy, sell, trade, hold, all of that crap? I said crap. Sorry, Nate. Nate and the other Nate, right? Some of our members do. So, we try to make it real simple. We have, I'm sorry, we do have slides on all of this. Let's see, the slides, let's jump here. Okay. Income fund, bond fund on the far left. A couple of mutual funds here. Those are really safe investments. They're not going to grow much in the long run, but they're not going to lose value if the market tanks. We can just refer to these as bond funds. And then for the rest of the page, you are seeing stock mutual funds. So what do we know about stocks in general over the long run? That's where the money is. Now, day to day, stocks fluctuate quite a bit, but in the long run, we have some really great returns. This is where your money can grow. Now, what is the biggest threat to, say, our 401k, or even to a pension check in retirement? What is the biggest threat to a fixed monthly check in retirement? I'm going to submit that it is inflation. Prices are always going up, almost always going up every year. So if you take, rather than save in a Roth IRA, for example, you take your paycheck and you put a bunch under your mattress for 35 years, what are the threats to money under a mattress? It doesn't earn interest. Your house might burn down. You might have a bedwetter. I don't know. A lot of threats to put money under the mattress. Okay? So if we think about the inflation, that's why we look to the stock market for retirement savings, for long-term savings. If you look at the stock mutual funds, we show 1, 3, 5, 10, and 15-year returns. And most of those you're seeing over the last 15 years, 5 to 9% growth on average. What does inflation average? Over the last 100 years or so, it's been around 3%. You see where I'm going with this? So stocks in the long run help us to, at the very least, beat inflation and actually do a lot better than inflation. So the risk that Tyson would have in putting everything in the income fund is that inflationary risk. The inflation fund might earn 1.5% to 2% every year. Inflation is generally higher than that. So you're not going to technically lose a dime, but his buying power would go down. So this is what I'm getting at. Any of us who don't need our savings for at least 10 years should choose to have most of the money on the right side of the page with a little bit over here. It could be an 80% stock mutual fund mix and maybe 20% in the bond fund. And the general idea is, all right, now you're maybe 8 years away from retirement. Let's change it up. Rather than 80-20, maybe we want to be 60%, 40%. And then by the time you retire, maybe you're keeping 20 to 30% in stocks and the rest right here in the income and the bond fund. Why? Because if you retire and you're spending the money, if we have another 2008 and you have maybe 50% of your money in the income fund, how did the income fund perform in 2008? The income fund had a 4.5%, 4.7% return. The income fund did well. Everything else dropped, right? So during retirement, you don't want to take as much risk. But you still want maybe 20 to 30% in the stock market during retirement so that, while you're retired for 20 to 30 to 40 years, your money is still beating inflation. If you don't want to try and rebalance and take the appropriate risk level throughout your career, turn the page, look at page 6, and you can choose a target date fund for your 401k, for your Roth IRA. A target date fund will gradually become safer the closer you get to that target year. So, picking on Tyson, for whatever reason I'm remembering his name. So, picking on Tyson here, who's going to be 65 in the year, what? We'll just say 2045-ish. Today, we would invest his portfolio pretty aggressively. Every 5 years, you're going to see the funds shift to the right, gradually becoming more conservative. So your easy approach is to put your money in a target date fund. Or if you want to be a little more hands-on, choose your own portfolio mix. But the caution is to take the appropriate risk level for your time horizon, how close you are to retirement. And then again, if the market tanks, don't freak out. Don't be buying high and then selling your stock funds when they're lower, right? Just because the market goes down doesn't mean you've lost your shares of investment. I hope we all understand that. You know, you might see your value in your 401k go down 20%, and a couple years later it's back up and it's earning again, right? Don't sell out of your stocks when the market is low. We want to buy we want to buy low and sell later when the market's high. That's how we make money in the stock market. I'm a buy and hold type of person. So if you set up your payroll deduction, you pick one of these plans, at least one, and you're saving a percentage of your income every paycheck, and you just invest it, maybe you look at it every 5 years. Maybe you look at it every 10 years. You don't even need to look at it every year. This is long-term retirement savings. If you want advice on which option to choose or where to invest, sign up for a one-on-one appointment when I'm in town or come to Salt Lake, and we can actually provide advice on the Tier 2 decision or how to invest your money or anything else related to these benefits. So summing it up today, let's fast forward a little bit. Here are a few things I want you to keep in mind. If you don't have one already, create a login on our website. Be engaged in this benefit. It doesn't mean you have to look at it every year and change your investments, but you need to designate your beneficiaries. You need to change your beneficiaries if life happens, right? If things happen. I want you to pick a plan and start saving. And for those still within their first year, hopefully you have a better feel for, well, which plan should I choose? Do I go with the hybrid or do I go with the all 401k plan? If this was way overwhelming and later on you're trying to remember something we discussed, we do have a couple of 20-minute videos for new members on our website that help you weigh these two options. Okay. Any questions as we wrap up?
I had a 401k from a previous employer. Could I roll that over into a hybrid plan?
Great question. If I have a 401k from a previous job, can you roll that into URS? Can you bring it into your new job's 401k? Absolutely. Yep. Your options would be to roll it into your new 401k or maybe even the traditional IRA. Yeah. But yes, the smart thing to do is usually just put it in the 401k. Yeah. Your previous employer's 401k plan might allow you to keep it there. Some of those companies are okay with that. Others they force you to roll it out. But when we think of a 401k, you can only currently fund your current employer's 401k, as you've noticed. So yes, you can roll plans in. Likewise, if you leave URS, you can roll it back out. Yeah. Great question. Any others? All right. Well, thank you for your time. I may not have made this clear. Maybe I did because Diane brought it up. But if you don't pick during the first year, the default is the hybrid plan. So if you take no action, you're going to end up in the hybrid plan. Okay. All right. Thanks for staying awake. Have a good one. Oh, thank you. Thank you.